This crash eastbound on the 21st South Freeway approaching the Redwood Road exit. All vehicles out of traffic on the left. Common Spirit hospitals, clinics, and caregivers, all connected to advanced health care in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with Human Kindness is here. Hello, Human Kindness. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, a high in the 50s today, but it drops back to the 40s tomorrow and Friday, and then there's a chance of rain tomorrow. After that, it dries out for the weekend. And right now, we're at 52 degrees, mostly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, welcome to the Wednesday after Super Tuesday. Nation's a little bleary-eyed after watching everything that took place yesterday. Of course, a lot of things happening here in the state of Utah as well. And now that the smoke has cleared and things have settled in just a little bit, we want to do a little look back in terms of where we've been. More importantly, we want to project forward in terms of what this actually means to the future and the march towards the first Tuesday of November, which will be here before we know it, but not soon enough for some of us because I think we have a little bit of rancor and rhetoric to go in between. So let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, during this first hour of the program, we're really going to dig into the results from last night and the projection forward in terms of what this all means. And, of course, a lot of the meaning became very clear early this morning as former United States Ambassador to the UN and former Governor of the state of South Carolina, Nikki Haley, formally announced that she was suspending her presidential campaign. And I think these are always very instructive. The headline, of course, is the race is over, that the former president is going to be the nominee. He's not quite there in terms of total delegates that he has to get yet. He needs about 200 more, 150 more to actually become the nominee, but he is officially the presumptive nominee. He's already made moves even prior to Super Tuesday to consolidate power within the Republican National Committee. And we'll break that down a little bit as we go through the day. But I always find it very fascinating to listen to concession speeches. There's something about it that is real and raw. There is something about it that ends up being deeply authentic. And whether you agree with the candidates or not, there's just something to be learned in those moments. You take someone like a Nikki Haley, who spent well over a year on the campaign trail, raising money, meeting with voters, courting people, doing media appearances, big speeches, interviews galore, and on it goes, and then it's over. And you learn a lot about a person in those moments in terms of what was the animating principle of their campaign really. And we've seen some of these final speeches, these concession speeches, where the candidate goes out in a big flame with lots of wild swings and angry kinds of rhetoric or very divisive. I thought Nikki Haley gave probably one of the shortest concession speeches as she formally suspended her campaign. But I think it was pretty rich in terms of the principles that she believed and that really animated her and drove her campaign. So I want to dig into that, and we're going to go to some historic ones as well. I have always said that the best speech Hillary Clinton ever gave was her concession speech at the end of the 2016 election. Mitt Romney gave a very powerful speech in his concession after running for president of the United States. And so we're going to dig into those a little bit because that's beyond the headlines, but it's things we all should be thinking of regardless of political persuasion. There's always lessons when you have to get down to the essence of what made it worthwhile and what made it meaningful in the end. So let's start with Nikki Haley as she announces formally that she had suspended her campaign for president. Here's what she said to a crowd of reporters early this morning.
I am filled with the gratitude for the outpouring of support we've received from all across our great country. But the time has now come to suspend my campaign. I said I wanted Americans to have their voices heard. I have done that. I have no regrets. And although I will no longer be a candidate, I will not stop using my voice for the things I believe in.
She also dedicated part of her speech to really bringing the people of America together, rejecting the politics and the partisanship, the hate, the anger, the frustration, kinds of messages that have become all too common in our political conversations.
While we stand strong for the cause of freedom, we must bind together as Americans. We must turn away from the darkness of hatred and division. I will continue to promote all those values, as is the right of every American. I sought the honor of being your president, but in our great country, being a private citizen is privilege enough in itself.
Being a private citizen is privilege enough in this country. That's an important statement for all of us to reflect on a little bit. You know, we complain and we whine and we moan about processes and balloting and votes and all of those things, and yet we've got a pretty amazing place, and the privilege to be a citizen of this country is something none of us should take for granted, and all of us should work to maintain those freedoms. You can talk about our warts, you can talk about our problems, you can talk about our failures as a nation. There's plenty, and it's still the greatest place on earth. More people are trying to get in here than ever before. Why? Because of the freedoms that we enjoy, the opportunities that are in front of us as citizens in a free country. Now, Nikki Haley closed out her message. It was very short, clocked in under 4 minutes total, but she had a specific message to the former president as he becomes the presumptive nominee. She did not give it an endorsement, but she did give an important message that might be worth listening to.
It is now up to Donald Trump to earn the votes of those in our party and beyond it who did not support him. And I hope he does that. At its best, politics is about bringing people into your cause, not turning them away. And our conservative cause badly needs more people. This is now his time for choosing.
A time for choosing. That, of course, hearkening back to Ronald Reagan, his famous speech, A Time for Choosing. And she called on the former president to choose to bring people together, that politics is about addition, not subtraction. And we'll talk about this a little later on as we get to Johanna Maska will join us from News Nation, former staffer with President Obama, did advance work there. And we'll talk about this addition, that parties are about addition, not subtraction. We often frame it in the context of you can either go out and try to win converts, or you can spend all your time trying to burn heretics and doing purity tests in a party. And it rarely turns out well. And so Nikki Haley was saying, look, this is Donald Trump's time for choosing. Will he choose division and anger, frustration and grievance? Will he choose to isolate those that have disagreed or have gone against him? Or will he figure out that this is a math problem? And the math is all addition, no subtraction. If you're going to win, not on Super Tuesday in March, but on the first Tuesday of November, when it really matters. That will be an interesting test. And we'll break all of this down as we go through the hour. We'll talk about the challenges that the Trump campaign will have, the challenges that the Biden campaign and administration are facing, and what that communication strategy is going to look like. So we're going to dig into all of that, and we're going to stay with the conversation a little bit longer. As I mentioned at the outset, we're going to dig in when we come back to Hillary Clinton's concession speech from 2016 and Mitt Romney's concession speech from 2012. Also instructive. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson.
You know, Hercules Credit Union has always been about growing stronger together. They've been doing this since 1946, and that's what it's all about. It's not just a place to have your money. It's a place to learn about your money, to leverage your money, and to make sure you're doing the things that are going to give you strength. Growing stronger together. I was in the office just a few weeks ago, and I love that sense of community. and learning. And how do we do this best, and how do we maximize what you have? Well, right now at Hercules Credit Union, there's all kinds of extraordinary opportunities for you, including a home court advantage loan. Buying a first home is a big decision, can be real challenging. They have everything you need, up to 100% loan to value, down payments as little as $1,000, and much, much more. Check it out at Hercules Credit Union. You can always find them in their locations in Taylorsville, Harriman, Riverton, or Salt Lake City, or online at HerculesCU.com. That's HerculesCU.com.
Wherever you find yourself on the road of life,
The freeway blocked because of the jackknife truck trailer.
it's better with guidance from the KSL traffic team.
It looks like traffic there is starting to move again.
Time your commute with traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s, mornings and afternoons.
On KSL News Radio.
When the weather warms up, it's like a stampede, except instead of dust stirred up by hundreds of hooves, it's a cascade of phone calls to Advanced Window Products. This is Jeff Kaplan. Soon as the sun shines and the snow's gone, people want new windows and frames from Utah's #1 custom window maker, and the wait for installation grows longer. But right now, you can get near the front of the line by calling for a quote and get $2,500 off when you purchase 10 windows or more. That's on top of the incredible savings for the highest quality double-pane windows and frames, any style, any color. See, at Advanced Window Products, they actually build the windows here in Utah, they install the windows, and they guarantee them for life. There's no middleman, and they can pass the savings on to you. They even offer buy now, pay later. So get in before the wait grows longer and get the $2,500 off. Get your new windows this spring. Make the call. Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100. Or visit AdvancedWindowsUSA.com.
Held over due to popular demand. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Utah State Fair Park. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Utah State Fair Park. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Utah State Fair Park. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Utah State Fair Park. Friday, noon to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Utah State Fair Park. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
The life of a small business owner. Keeping the lights on, calling all the shots. And then there's workplace accidents. 500-degree ovens, rusty nails. Danger lurks around every corner. Workplace accidents can happen, but there is an easy way to keep your employees covered. Talk to your agent about workers' comp coverage from PIE, or go to pieinsurance.com and get a quote. Safety first, then PIE Insurance. Individual rates, offerings, and savings may vary, subject to policy terms and conditions. Not available in all states and situations.
With interest rates coming back down, I bet the real estate market will pick back up in 2024. We're already seeing that, Tim.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter how the market is doing when you have the right team. So if you're looking to sell your house, now you want to downsize or you need more space, you need the Stern team.
The Stern team has taught us, I can think of a handful of things that I would worry about if I was buying or selling, but there are 100 details that are involved in selling a home, and they have lots of people that are handling every detail so nothing falls through the cracks.
And they have so many different options. I mean, I worked with Cammie there at the Stern team, and she was awesome. But if you need an instant cash offer, you can do that. If you need to buy before you sell, you can do that. They have flexible fees.
They also have people that they represent that are looking to buy a home, so maybe they can make that perfect connection within the Stern team.
So don't put off selling your house or buying a house because you think the market isn't just right. The market is right with the Stern team.
Go online to sternteam.com or just Google the Stern team.
Jeff Kaplan. When you're online, that's sometimes a source of fourth-hand information. Somebody does the reporting. Another website Googles, they find it, they rewrite it, and by the time you read it, you know the old game telephone. But KSL is a source of primary information. We have reporters on the street. They're out in the field finding out the details. And the difference between online and KSL News Radio, night and day.
Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News, 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
Social Security is with you through life's journey from birth to retirement. As your life changes year to year, so do your needs. For over 80 years, Social Security has helped to meet your needs and is committed to improving access to the services that make a difference in your life. Today, you can verify your earnings, estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, manage your benefits, and even change your address, all from the comfort of your home. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints answered questions today about its acquisition of the Kirtland Temple and other historic buildings from the Community of Christ. Second, UDOT is planning to close a section of I-215 in Murray between I-15 and State Street this weekend. And third, exit polls from Super Tuesday primaries show many Republican voters aren't quite ready to support Donald Trump for president. Right now, 52 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It is great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson. We're staying with the conversation on the Wednesday after Super Tuesday. Those are important days. Wednesdays always come, by the way, and even the first Tuesday of November will be followed by a Wednesday. And the sun comes up, everyone goes to work, takes care of their family, makes a difference in their community, and the constitutional republic rolls on. We have to get out of this life or death game of politics. And often in the wake of a big Tuesday, whether it's a Super Tuesday or whether it's the first Tuesday of November, there's always the next day. But you learn a lot coming off of the Tuesday about those who gave it their all and came up short. We listened to some of Nikki Haley's concession and her withdrawing from the race to be the Republican nominee as she suspended her campaign formally this morning in South Carolina, her home state. And I've always believed that you learn more about a candidate in that moment than you often do on a whole year on the campaign trail. Nikki Haley proved worthy of that moment in terms of what she chose to speak about. No sour grapes, no burning the bridges, no anything other than this is why I did this. This is why it was worth it, even though I didn't get the result I wanted. And here's what I hope for the future in terms of principles and policies that will be better for the people of the country. Also, in some very classy moves, I know they've been doing calls with a lot of the volunteers from around the country, including here in the state of Utah. And again, it's easy to just kind of go in your corner and sulk. Nikki Haley has not been doing that. She's been making calls. She's been connecting with those that were supporters, those that were helpful along the way. And again, a classy move, I think, in terms of that conversation. So now I want to go historic for a moment. I mentioned it in the first segment that I think Hillary Clinton's best speech was actually her concession speech in 2016. So I want to play just a little cut of that because, again, when you're forced to stare the reality down that you didn't get the result that you wanted, it's pretty real, it's pretty raw, but it gives us some pretty good insight into what makes leaders who are willing to make a run for the highest office in the land what they're thinking about, what animates them day to day. Here's Hillary Clinton from 2016.
Finally, I am so grateful for our country and for all it has given to me. I count my blessings every single day that I am an American. And I still believe, as deeply as I ever have, that if we stand together and work together with respect for our differences, strength in our convictions, and love for this nation, our best days are still ahead of us.
That was Hillary Clinton from 2016. And again, I don't care if you love Hillary Clinton or hate Hillary Clinton. It was an extraordinary speech. I remember watching that speech, and I remember thinking to myself, wow, if that part of Hillary Clinton had been on display more during the course of the campaign, I wonder if the results would have been different. I think they would have. So it's always interesting. So now let's go to the other side. Let's go to Mitt Romney. And Mitt Romney spoke after conceding to Barack Obama in 2012. Take a listen.
The nation, as you know, is at a critical point. At a time like this, we can't risk partisan bickering and political posturing. Our leaders have to reach across the aisle to do the people's work. And we citizens also have to rise to the occasion. We look to our teachers and professors. We count on you not just to teach, but to inspire our children with a passion for learning and discovery. We look to our pastors and priests and rabbis and counselors of all kinds to testify of the enduring principles upon which our society is built: honesty, charity, integrity, and family. We look to our parents. For in the final analysis, everything depends on the success of our homes. And we look to Democrats and Republicans in government at all levels to put the people before the politics. I believe in America. I believe in the people of America.
That was Mitt Romney from 2012, and those concession speeches, those are tough. Those are raw. After you put everything you have into a battle that goes on for over a year, and then suddenly you find that you've come up short. But you learn a lot. And I thought it was interesting that both Mitt Romney and Hillary Clinton went to their love of country, to their belief in the country, and calling on the people of the country to actually stand together. I think that's a crucial piece of this puzzle. And so often we lose that in just the headlines of the day and who won by how many points and what's coming next. And so all of those things I think are crucial to look at. Where do we go from here? Now, we're going to break down a little bit more as we go through the program and take a look at some of the components that former President Trump, as the presumptive nominee, some of the hard work and heavy lifting that he's going to have to get to in the months ahead. Because, again, doesn't matter if you can win a primary in the spring. The only thing that matters when you're running for president is can you win the general election in the fall. And the current president, the current occupant of the White House, Joe Biden, has his work cut out for him in terms of uniting his party. And both of them are going to be competing in a lot of those swing states. There's only about 6 or 8 of them these days. It used to be we had like 19 or 20 swing states. But now it's gotten very small, and a small handful of voters in those states will make the difference. And interestingly, most of them fall somewhere in the center-left to center-right politically. And they're not just going to sign up and click their heels and fall into line with either the current president or the former president. They're going to have to earn those. And so that will be the real test. And so we'll continue to track all of that as we go through the day and in the days ahead in terms of how do they make that case, what do they do to actually bring those together. For the current president, his focus will really begin tomorrow, and the tone and tenor that he sets in the State of the Union address will be big. We'll be covering that on the show as we go into the day tomorrow. Some of the attendees, the guests of the president and members of Congress are starting to leak out, and so we'll see what he's going to do. And the question will be whether President Biden turns it into a campaign-style rally and rails against the former president and against Republicans, or whether he uses it as a uniting moment and talks about some of the principles and policies he wants to get to. Of course, with the former president, he was pretty specific last night, pretty much on path in terms of the grievance message and a lot of populism in his victory speech last night from Mar-a-Lago. And so that question will then be, what does he do next? And where does he need to go, again, to get the middle ground, the center-left to center-right voters that are out there that will be making the decisions that ultimately will decide who occupies the Oval Office in the White House in 2025. So we'll break all of those things down. We'll continue with that here on Inside Sources on KSL News Radio. We're going to step aside for some bottom-of-the-hour news. Much more to come. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Tim and Amanda.
I don't want to be in the dark about things. I'm sure you don't either, Tim. I mean, I want to know. What's going on with the weather? Are my kids safe? Where is my money going? I want to be informed.
Yeah, the truth is, it's important information for you and your families to make sure that you are informed so that if some changes are necessary in your life or your children's life, you can make them by listening and starting your morning with us here on KSL.
Wake up with Utah's Morning News with Tim and Amanda, 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. Utah Republican Party Chair Robert Axson addressed the messiness of last night's caucus meetings, telling Utah's Morning News that while there were curveballs, he believes most of the hundreds of meetings throughout the state went smoothly.
The vast majority of those, went very well and smoothly. And really it was the check-in process in a couple of locations got overwhelmed. And like I said, we missed the mark on that. We'll have to have those lessons learned.
By and large, Axson says he's glad he saw such a big turnout from Utah Republicans. A portion of eastbound I-215 will be closed this weekend. UDOT says it will shut down the freeway between the I-15 interchange and State Street. While crews remove the top layers of the overpass for repairs, I-215 will reopen for the Monday morning commute. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A source is telling ABC a Russian missile hit a port in Odessa, landing about 200 feet from a convoy carrying President Volodymyr Zelensky. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about that.
Russia's actions speak for themselves here, but I can't speak for their exact target.
The Ukrainian Navy says the Russian strike killed at least 5 people. Looking at your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average and the NASDAQ both up on the day, regaining some of the ground that they lost yesterday. And our KSL weather, we're going to be in the 50s for most of the week, just not tomorrow. That's next. KSL News Time, 1:31.
It's a priority for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Guys, did you know your testosterone affects everything in your system, including how you feel and perform every day? Right now, Revive Men's Health Salt Lake City will check your testosterone for free. Knowing your T levels is the first step in understanding if you have low T. Your testosterone level impacts your energy, libido, sleep, weight, hair loss, mood, and even ED. Maintaining an appropriate T level can change your whole life. Most men start to see changes in their hormone levels in their 30s. Experience and results matter. So what are you waiting for? Get your T levels checked today by local, experienced, and trusted men's health experts. They've helped thousands of men since 2011. They're so confident they can help you, they even guarantee it. Call Revive today and schedule your free testosterone test, free exam, and free consultation. Call Revive Men's Health at 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
To thank you for 40 unforgettable years, Dell Technologies is celebrating with anniversary savings on their most popular tech. For a limited time only, save on select next-gen PCs like the XPS 13 Plus, powered by Intel Core processors, and more. Plus, curate your dream setup with great deals on select monitors, mice, and more must-have electronics and accessories. When you shop online at Dell.com/deals, you'll have access to leading-edge technology and free shipping on everything. Again, that's Dell.com/deals.
When you're high, you feel different. You think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different. And not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal everywhere. So if you're high, just don't drive. Make a plan to get a sober ride. Because if you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hey, Joe Montana here. Back in my football days, I knew the importance of a strong defense. Now I'm sharing how you can help defend your health against pneumococcal pneumonia, a bacterial lung disease that can be life-threatening. If you're 65 or older or 19 or older with certain chronic conditions like diabetes or asthma, you're at increased risk. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist about vaccination and learn more at knowpneumonia.com. That's KNOW pneumonia.com.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, clickgrainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
Back to a crash-free commute on the Valley freeways and Main Secondary's delay-free as well. Again, a reminder about the closure of eastbound I-215 on the South Belt between I-15 over to State Street due to bridge work. That's going to start Friday night. It will not reopen until Monday morning. The UACPA supports certified public accountants in Utah through ongoing professional education and leadership development. Find a CPA that works for you. UACPA.org. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
And our KSL weather, high in the 50s today, but then drops back into the 40s tomorrow and Friday. Chance of rain tomorrow, then things dry out for the weekend. 52 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today, as always. A historic day for women yesterday on the Republican side of the aisle. Nikki Haley became the first woman to actually win 2 states. She won actually the District of Columbia and Vermont. So she picked up delegates there. That was a historic moment before bowing out today in a speech that was brilliant and powerful, principle-centric. And as I said earlier in the show, it really tells you a lot about a person, what they say in defeat. But we're looking at how do women win, and really pleased as always to have back in studio with us Sydney Tetro, who leads SheTech and a host of other things that shows young women what it means to lead, what it means to be a lifelong learner, to take advantage of opportunities and make a difference in the community. And Sid, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
And you brought some friends with you.
I brought some of my SheTech friends with me.
Yeah, so SheTech is coming up next Thursday.
Next Thursday. It's Pi Day.
It is Pi Day, so it's the 14th.
Exactly.
So 314, we got that. I don't do math, I do words, but I did know it was Pi Day. And it's also SheTech Day.
That's right.
Give us a sense of the scale. You were talking about the numbers. Give us the location and all the details.
Yeah, so SheTech is a program for high school girls, and it's really focused on how do we inspire them into STEM careers. What we've learned is 90% of high school girls have no role models, and they know no women in tech. And it's the reason they're not choosing STEM fields. Yeah. And so we're about how do you change that? How do you put them in front of 1,000 industry mentors and role models and inspire change? So we'll have more than 3,000 high school girls across the state come. Most of them are coming on buses from their high schools. And they'll have an opportunity to work with almost 1,000 industry mentors and role models during the course of that day. And I'm telling you, it changes lives. It changes who they can become because they see something they never thought possible, and it translates to them.
Yeah, so important. And as a guy with 7 sisters, a mother, a wife, 3 daughters, and almost 3 granddaughters, I get it. That's powerful to have that many women coming together. And as you said, Sid, it's so important because they have the aptitude and the skills in a lot of those places, but they haven't had the exposure to get the mindset. So tell us how that happens.
You know, it's because when you see something and then you see that it wasn't what you expected, all of a sudden something changes in your mind. One of the young women told me a story last week. Her mom's in tech. So she has this great role model. And she's like, yeah, I think my mom, she said, I thought my mom had the boringest desk job. And then she said, I saw my mom on the Women Tech Awards stage. And I heard all these stories from these other women. And I realized there was a spot for me and that my mom was super cool. And that was the path I was going to pursue. That vision, that ability to see something you never imagined, that's what changes perception, and that's what changes your ability to identify the power that you have in change.
Yeah, you got to be able to see it if you're going to achieve it. Now I want to go to some of your powerful friends here. Rebecca's from Hunter High School. Give us a little perspective of your experience with SheTech.
Yeah, so I learned about SheTech Explorer Day last year through one of my friends,
And I went, and I was really nervous because I didn't know a lot of people going, but I met so many wonderful ladies and role models, and it was really fun because I was able to get hands-on experience and participate in challenges and experiments. And it really, I learned a lot about what opportunities I had and the types of careers that I could go into, and it was really cool.
Oh, I love that. Love that. All right, now I'm going to go to another Sydney from Millard. Came up and from a rural community, so I think even probably fewer role models there when it comes to tech. We talk about some of the challenges. So give us your experience with SheTech.
Yeah, so one of my teachers brought it up to me, and I went to SheTech Explorer Day last year with some of my friends, and I was able to be inspired by the women there that the careers that were shown. It's helped me to design my future around more STEM-based technology and careers and stuff like that.
Yeah, I love that. Making sure I love this designing your future. That's on brand. That's on message
that is on
right
brand.
there.
That's right.
that's fantastic, Cindy. Rebecca, let me come back to you for a second. What surprised you the most going to SheTech Explorer Day?
Yeah, I was really surprised, actually. I learned about a lot of different careers that I had no idea about, and they really sparked my interest because we were able to put those to the test and see what I could do with my own hands, and it really empowered me and interested me because I had never known about that before.
Yeah, love that. Fantastic. And Cindy, let me come back to you. I listened to Nikki Haley this morning talk to the entire nation about some important principles and some challenges, some things for people to do. You have the microphone. You're speaking to the young women in the state of Utah. What's your message, especially as it relates to STEM, to SheTech, and those opportunities?
I think starting young, starting in your early high school years, finding a program like SheTech to help you get inspired and find those people that can help you through things, because I found SheTech my junior year of high school, and it has helped me so much in the 2 years that I've been involved in it. And I feel like the earlier you get started, the better, so that you can find those mentors to help you throughout what you want to do in your future.
Yeah, I love that. We're in good hands.
We are in good hands.
Powerful stuff. Sid, let me come back to you in terms of what will take place next Thursday at SheTech and what people can do, because they can still participate. People can still become involved.
You can still go register. SheTech Explorer Day. It goes from 9 to 1 o'clock at the Mountain America Expo Center. It's a jam-packed day, so they're going to have a tech zone. I think we have 60 different technologies they get to experience. They get to do 2 workshops. We also do a tech challenge where we present them with the problem. They work with the mentor, ideate all the way to pitch, and win prizes. So you get everything in this time frame. That's what I think is so powerful. Yeah. You're going to identify with something. You're going to meet someone that inspires you. You're going to have your mind open to things that you never thought possible. And then you're going to see 3,000 other people who look like you. Yeah. And you're going to find a way for you to really see what's possible for you. And then these stories echo. They get amplified every year. And then the girls come back like these great young women who are serving on our student board. They're leaders in their schools. They're starting clubs. They're going to pathway into college. That's exactly what we want for our state. It's how we strengthen it, is by having their brilliance and their talent at the table and part of our ecosystem moving forward.
This is what leadership looks like. This is what leadership sounds like. And if you're listening out there, if you are a young woman, this is an extraordinary opportunity. Even if you think, no, I don't like math, I don't like science, I don't like STEM.
We want you there.
Get there
That's right.
And get exposed to that.
And it's free.
It
doesn't cost anything. And most of our schools have buses. So if you find your teacher inside of your school, you should be able to get transportation. You come, and there's also a lot of fun swag. Yeah. So who doesn't want a free T-shirt and a bunch of other things?
Fantastic. Well, great perspective, great insight. Again, SheTech coming up on the 14th, Pi Day, 14th of March, and a great opportunity, part of SheTech Explorer Day. Sid Tetro, so appreciate your leadership on this one, and glad you brought 2 very powerful young women, and appreciate both Rebecca and Sydney for joining us today, and Sydney for driving up from Millard to be part of the conversation today. That's also what leaders do. They show up even if you have to travel a long distance. We're in good hands in this state, folks, but it's opportunities like this, it's conversations like this that make all the difference. So be part of it. SheTech next week right here. And we'll follow up as we step aside for a quick break on KSL News Radio. We'll be right back.
wireless headphones. That'll be $200.
I'll use my Capital One Quicksilver card.
Now that's a hit. You used the Capital One Quicksilver card, which makes you the hero of every purchase. With Quicksilver, you earn unlimited 1.5% cash back on every purchase everywhere.
I wanted running music, but unlimited 1.5% cash back is pretty heroic.
Good instincts. Every hero needs a theme song. The Capital One Quicksilver card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
I am James, Senior Apparel Designer, and this is Behind the Design with Hawks. Hawks is your classic workwear brand. It's designed for those guys that are on the job site. Just driven performance, just rugged and comfortable. Thinking of durability, everything is either double, triple stitched, bar tacked. It's build durable, it's going to perform, it's going to move with you, it's going to have everything that you need in a product. Hawks, only at Boot Barn.
Visit the contest page on KSLNewsRadio.com. This week, win tickets to comedian Jim Gaffigan on the Barely Alive Tour, Friday, October 25th at the Eccles Theater. Or win tickets to an upcoming Real Salt Lake match. Listen to the RSL game on KSLSports.com. Plus, win tickets to see Tim McGraw on his Standing Room Only Tour, April 5th at the Delta Center. Text the word contest to 57500 or go to KSLNewsRadio.com/contests.
Would you like to be part of an important research study and receive up to $550? The Beehive study at the University of Utah is comparing how well 2 different FDA-authorized booster vaccines protect people against COVID-19. You can decide to get a booster or not and still participate. By joining the Beehive study, you'll have the chance to receive up to $550 for completing activities such as weekly COVID tests and brief surveys about your health. Call 801-203-0320 or email beehivestudy@utah.edu to learn more. You can also visit the study website at www.beehivestudy.com.
New home for the new year? Sounds nice, doesn't it? What about new lowered rates? Now's the time to step into a gorgeous new Nilsson home with less commute times, easy access, and with rates that have dropped more significantly than all year. Less really is more in this case. Less maintenance, less commute, and less money per month. Move north with Nilsson Homes. Choose from beautiful townhomes to Rambler communities for all stages of life. Most of all, Nilsson Homes are move-in ready and close to what you love and enjoy with easy commutes. Nilsson Homes has been building across the Wasatch Front for over 45 years, accommodating all the things you need, combined with the things you love. Make sure to ask about special savings. Experience your new home for the new year. Visit Nilsson Homes Communities at nilssonhomes.com. NILSON homes.com. That's nilssonhomes.com.
Rick at loansbyrick.com has some important information for anyone in Utah and Idaho who's thinking of buying a house. Do it now. Don't wait until summer because home prices in those 2 states will likely increase by 10 to 20% due to in-migration from California and other states. That means a house that costs $400,000 right now will go up by $40 to $80,000 with multiple offers. Interest rates may drop later in the year, possibly to the 6% range, but the increased cost of the home will mean that your monthly payments will go up by a lot. So start looking and buy now. Refinance when the interest rates go down. Waiting to buy your home will only hurt you in the long run. For more details and buying strategies, call Rick at loansbyrick.com right now. 801-809-SAVE. Rick can evaluate your situation and get you on the path to buying a home today. 801-809-SAVE or click loansbyrick.com.
Rick Kirschenbaum, NMLS 241179 and Vintage Lending NMLS 287106 are equal housing lenders. Some restrictions apply.
Jeff Kaplan.
I'm energized by breaking news. First of all, because it's right now, and second of all, because in many cases the audience needs to know. There's no more important service that we can provide, and I find it critically important to get more details to the audience as quickly as possible. There's nothing more energizing than that for me. Not at all. The most important thing we do is breaking news. I am gratified that so many people listen to me every afternoon on KSL, but what they don't know is that there are so many people behind the scenes making it happen, checking on the traffic, answering the phones, making the calls, talking to the newsmakers. They're out in the street, into the field to get the raw information, and then putting it all together so that I can sit in front of a microphone and be a source of information every afternoon. But there are so many people who make it happen. That's what you don't know.
Ride Home with Jeff Kaplan, weekday
weekdays, 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, do it now. Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. It drove me crazy. It got so bad, I couldn't do my homework. I couldn't concentrate. I absolutely refused to let any of my friends come to our house for any reason. I would have been humiliated if anyone found out how much my dad drank and how loud my mom screamed at him. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful. The only thing that happened is my mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. Her relationship with my dad really changed. I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I wanted to see if I could have a better relationship with my dad. I'm sure glad I did. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the chair of Utah's Republican Party says they missed the mark on some aspects of their party caucuses last night, but most of them, he says, went very well. Second, UDOT plans to shut down a busy section of I-215 from State Street to I-15 this weekend. And third, a Russian missile hit close to Ukraine's president in the Black Sea port of Odessa. 5 people were killed, but President Zelensky wasn't hurt. 52 degrees right now, and back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson. If you missed the last segment, wow, that was powerful. It was all part of SheTech. Of course, we had Sid Tetro, who drives that organization in an amazing way. They'll have 4,000 young people next week at SheTech Explorer Day. And I especially love that we had Rebecca from Hunter High and Sydney from Millard on the show. Those were powerful young women who didn't think they really fit in STEM or technology or any of those spaces, but then after that experience realized, wow, they've got some natural aptitude and skills. They were able to connect with mentors and learn so many different things. It's an extraordinary thing here in the state of Utah, and it makes all of us better. And we've been talking about a lot of extraordinary women today, including Nikki Haley. I think her speech as she suspended her campaign, she really called the nation to some critical conversations, and that's an important thing for us to get to. And one of my other favorite people who calls us to important conversations, Gainalyn Condi, joins us on the line for some important perspective in our conversations. Easy to get lost in all the divisiveness and all the anger and fear and frustration stuff going on, but we're going to call you now to an important conversation. And Gainalyn, welcome back to the show.
Great to be back with you, Boyd, always.
You had a powerful piece at Deseret.com over the weekend as we have the crucial conversation around mental health, about suicide. You, of course, have a personal experience and story that you've shared with so many, and the principles behind that, where we've come in terms of these kinds of conversations around mental health and suicide. And so give us that perspective, and then give us some of the things where we've made some progress and what we have left to do.
Yeah, I really appreciated being able to put some complex feelings to paper and try to find words to describe a complex issue like mental health and suicide grief that our family went through 10 years ago. So the anniversary is coming up in just a few days of when my 40-year-old sister Meg died by suicide. And so for the last decade, I've been working in this space and in some spaces where the interconnection between mental health and some other demographics wasn't as obvious maybe 10 years ago. It's a little more obvious now, specifically faith. I was at the Nikki Haley rally, was it last week? I don't know. It feels like each day's extra long right now. But she was even talking about her husband's own journey and our veterans out there specifically giving a shout out to PTSD. So it's not just thoughts of self-harm. It's not just suicide grief. It's mental health in general. And in that space, the last 10 years, I've learned a lot about my own mental health. I've tried to have a lot of conversations around mental health. And I think especially what you do so well each day on the show is that divisiveness and that anger and vitriol that sometimes comes with our social media posting or our political commentation or faith conversations really is and has taken a toll on our mental health. And we can each move the needle in how we approach some of those more sensitive subjects in a way that's more mental health friendly.
Yeah, and as you've been doing this over the last decade, I know it's a significant mile marker here 10 years down the road. You pointed out in your piece at Deseret.com just some areas where we should be celebrating, where Utah's leading the way in some things, and yet there's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
Yeah, I just went to a funeral on Saturday for a young man in my community that died by suicide. And so one suicide is too many suicides, but I do think as I've approached this anniversary and in many ways can't believe it's been 10 years, but some days I feel like it was just yesterday, there's been some improvement and change. And I think Utah is leading the way, and I hope the nation as a whole can kind of look at what we're doing. I've loved working with the Cook Center for Human Connection. They've launched a free resource called parentguidance.org, and I love it because it allows parents to submit questions to therapists if their question isn't already answered. The new IHC Primary Children's Hospital in Lehigh, where I live, has a behavioral unit from the Cook family that was one of the main donors for that to happen. And this inpatient, outpatient resource is like none other. And when I did do a private tour for the ribbon cutting and all of that, I said, how long can someone stay? And they said, as long as is needed. And I literally started weeping. And I said to the Cook family, 10 years ago, there weren't places like this. And so I'm grateful to see that. And I'm grateful to see that we're having conversations within faith communities, in the work that I've done and the books that I've published. Because of sharing Meg's story, I've been able to go into other faith communities that are not my own and share how faith and mental health intersects. I always like to say that Jesus loves a good therapist. So I don't think it's one or the other. And sometimes I think people of faith start to feel like if I have enough scripture and enough faith and enough prayer, then I won't have these battles. But the reality is we all have needs mentally that need to be addressed.
Yeah, no question about that. You also pointed out in your piece that we are making some progress with men talking about mental health. That's been an area that's been very slow to come around, but we're getting there. We're starting it.
Well, I love the courage of this young man's parents. His sisters and his parents both spoke at the funeral, which is a miraculous feat to do if someone is dealing with this kind of loss. And his father got up and was really bold and said, I'm a hypocrite, right? We need to be talking differently about men's mental health because they're the number one group dying by suicide, just on numbers. If we just take numbers and put it on a graph, that's the number one group. And I love what Silicon Slopes is doing and many others within like professional sports circles and business groups that are saying, where we find a high population of men, we need to have a different conversation. One of the things I like to say is, men, when you go to work or go home at dinner time and you talk about your therapy appointment, you are providing for your family in a way that is beyond a paycheck number. And so I think when the men in our lives hear us say to them, you're providing for our family or our community in ways that can't be maybe measured in a bank account, but it provides for us when a man says, I need support, and it may look different, I think traditionally we thought of therapy as just talk therapy, and for the men in my life, sometimes that is like panic button, like, wait, we're just going to sit and talk about our feelings? That sounds like horrible torture. I can't do that. But therapy in the last 10 years, I would just say the other good news is that term has expanded. There's a lot of modalities out there. There's telemed now, so you don't need to even let anyone know. You can go get in your car at lunchtime and have a therapy session. And maybe it looks different, than traditionally just talking through all the feelings. So don't
important.
tune me out when I say to men, go to therapy. It's a big term. It's
That's
a big
right.
term.
Absolutely. And so many great resources out there. Parentguidance.org was one that you mentioned. Of course, we want to make sure as we close out here, 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Don't ever hesitate there if you're worried or if you're worried about someone. reach out. It's all of our job. As always, Gainalyn Conde, thanks for elevating the conversation and providing some perspective when it comes to our mental health and how we all need to link arms and do this thing together. Gainalyn, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
You can check out Gainalyn's piece at Deseret.com. It's must-read today. We all need this in all our communities. It is the crucial conversation. That wraps up hour number 1 of Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. Don't go anywhere. Big hour number 2 coming up. Jeffrey Rosen will join us. He's the CEO of the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia. That's coming up next.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top story this hour. Last night's Republican caucuses were stressful for a lot of voters who weren't able to get registered and had to wait in long lines. Utah State University Political Science Department Head Damon Cann says this is partly why caucuses have lower turnouts generally than primary elections.
Over time, people do develop habits of political participation, and knowing the right way to interface with the system depends on some degree of stability.
Cann says caucuses are cheaper than primaries, but subject to a lot of problems. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Voting by mail has been controversial in California, but this time, California's election officials say it's clear it's the preferred choice. ABC's Alex Stone reports from Los Angeles.
Turnout in the primary appears to have been low in California, but state election officials say it would have been even lower without mail-in ballots. Voters overwhelmingly seem to enjoy the ease of voting by mail, says Kristen Conley, the clerk and recorder in Contra Costa County.
Between 90 and 95% of our cast ballots have come in through vote by mail.
Alex Stone, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average and the NASDAQ both up on the day. And our KSL weather. Looks like our temperatures will be rising into the 50s by the weekend. That's next. KSL News Time 2:01.
Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Cameron Rising. Growing up, summer break was the best, but I've learned that a lot of kids don't feel the same. That's because summer means their school breakfast and lunch won't be available. What's awesome is the food bank helps. Join me and Les Olson IT by giving food, time, or money. Take your donations to any Les Olson IT branch or the food bank, and find more info at lesolson.com/food. Let's support our community together.
I'm Jason Walton, candidate for U.S. Senate. I'm recording from the Tucson sector of our southern border, and nobody's here. Our government should defend our territory, but President Biden, Mitch McConnell, and career politicians are funding war in other countries while the cartels are waging unchecked war here on American soil. I'm standing up to build the wall, end catch and release, and secure the border. Stand with me. I'm Jason Walton, and I approve this message.
Paid for by friends of Jason Walton for Senate.
For over 100 years and 4 generations, my family has provided quality installations from the most well-known brands in the heating and air conditioning industry. Hello, I'm Brian Jackson with Manuel Plumbing and Heating. Now, until March 1st, purchase a high-efficient home comfort system and receive a free bypass humidifier or a 5-inch media filter to complete your new system. Give us a call and let one of our knowledgeable sales staff provide a free in-home consultation on what Manuel can do for you and your home. Be sure to ask about rebates and our financing options. Call Manuel today, 801-262-4671.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
When you're rolling Charmin up too soft on the potty, let's just so roll it back, everybody. Charmin's irresistibly soft and hella nice. The crib is always stocked. It's our party vice. So our cheeks feel flat. So everybody wanna touch the sky.
Charmin Ultra Soft is irresistibly soft and more absorbent, so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
I lock up my Old Spice Fiji aluminum-free dry spray to keep that 24/7 lasting freshness safe for myself. Fresh coconuts, palm trees in the wind, It's like catching waves in Fiji. Actually, I just talked myself into a refreshing spritz of Fiji. My Old Spice is missing! No!
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meeks.
Looks like we have a possible accident westbound on the 21st South Freeway just before Redwood Road. All vehicles, including the UDOT Tango unit, is over to the right shoulder. Common Spirit hospitals, clinics, and caregivers, all connected to advanced health care in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness. Ricky Meeks in the KSL Traffic Center.
Our KSL weather, a high in the 50s today, but then it drops into the 40s tomorrow and Friday. There's a chance of rain tomorrow, and then it dries out for the weekend. Right now, we're at 52 degrees and partly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, time to get beyond just the headlines of all the politics of it all. And it's interesting, often when we justify our own selfish or self-indulgent behavior, we'd like to recite the Declaration of Independence, that most famous passage regarding our right to pursue happiness. And again, we're getting lost on the headline and we're missing the meaning. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, I don't think it was any accident that Thomas Jefferson very specifically, very carefully, very purposefully placed that line, the pursuit of happiness, into the heart and soul of the Declaration of Independence. Remember, it was mostly a grievance document, but there it was, the pursuit of happiness. And a lot of times we use it to justify selfish, narcissistic behavior, and that's not it. We're missing it. We're turning now to one of my favorite thinkers who actually has a new book out by that title, The Pursuit of Happiness, How the Classical Writers on Virtue Inspired the Lives of the Founders and Defined America. Jeffrey Rosen is the president and CEO of the National Constitution Center. He hosts We the People, a weekly podcast of constitutional debate. And Jeffrey's one of my favorite thinkers, someone I got to connect with when I was a chief of staff back in Washington, D.C. And Jeffrey, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Boyd. It's so great to reconnect.
It's so wonderful. And you've done something there at the Constitution Center in bringing people from different sides of the political spectrum to come together around the principles that actually do unite us as a nation that we often forget there at the Constitution Center. Before we get into the pursuit of happiness, just give us some sense of those conversations and how important they have been to the national dialogue.
Well, thanks so much for asking. And it is so meaningful to host conversations that are respectful with people of diverse points of view. Every week on We the People, I get to call up leading liberal and conservative thinkers for civil constitutional debate about the constitutional issues in the news and history. Sometimes there's agreement, sometimes disagreement, but it's always civil and thoughtful, the way the founders intended. And in this polarized time when we're having such fractious, fights in our politics, it's just inspiring to be able to bring out the best of America by convening these thoughtful conversations.
Yeah, so important, and those have been so meaningful. I refer to those often. I reflect on those all the time, and I learn so much. I actually learn as much or more from those that I think I might disagree with politically, but they often open my eyes to some of those, founding principles in ways that are new. And I think having that awe and wonder and being willing to be surprised, I think, is an important part of that.
What a beautiful way to put it. That's exactly right. Open your eyes, open your mind to listening to perspectives you may not agree with. And that sense of wonder and openness really is the definition of the American idea. It's recognizing that although we may not agree on the particular applications of the principles of liberty, equality, and democracy, we're committed to the conversation.
Yeah.
It's such a great thing, and it's great to to talk with you about it.
Yeah, so grateful for your leadership in leading those conversations, so vital. In your latest book, I think this is so crucial as we get to this pursuit of happiness, that when you go back to the founders, their belief that the pursuit of happiness could really only be achieved through virtue, through discipline, through service. Give us your backstory. What was it that sparked your curiosity to go down this path to write The Pursuit of Happiness?
It was the most remarkable set of synchronicities that led to this project, which transformed the way I thought about the pursuit of happiness and how to be a good person and a good citizen. It was during COVID, and I came across a reading list that Thomas Jefferson would send to kids who were going to law school and who wanted to know how to be an educated person when he was old. And it was a very rigorous reading list. You had to get up before sunrise and read politics and philosophy in the morning and history in the afternoon and literature in the evening. But what caught my eye was the section called Ethics or Natural Religion. And at the top of the list was a book by Cicero called The Tusculan Disputations that I'd never heard of. And Jefferson would send out a passage from this book for people who asked, what's the meaning of the pursuit of happiness? And the passage from Cicero said that happiness is not feeling good, it's being good. It's achieving tranquility of mind, self-mastery, self-composure, and having a good character. So I thought, gosh, I've got to read that book. And then what are the other books on the reading list? And they were Stoic and ancient Greek and Roman philosophers like Seneca and Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, and Enlightenment philosophers like John Locke and Francis Hutcheson and David Hume. So during COVID, I just set out to read the books. I've had this great liberal arts education, studied history and literature and politics, but I just missed these books of moral philosophy because they'd fallen out of the curriculum by the time I was going to college. And I spent COVID reading the books, and what I learned just came as a revelation that our understanding of the pursuit of happiness today is the opposite of what the founders and the ancients and really people through most of human history viewed as the core of happiness. And that, as you said so well, was virtue, self-reliance, self-improvement, self-mastery, so we could be our best self and serve others.
I so love that. And that what a great exercise. We we all ought to go down that path in terms of that kind of reading and getting to those moral principles that, again, have fallen off the table in a lot of our conversation. Part of what you do in the book is you profile 6 of those very influential founders and looking at how these principles that are really embodied in this pursuit of happiness meant in their lives. Give us a couple examples.
Well, I start with Ben Franklin, who, when he was in his 20s, resolved to achieve moral perfection. And he devised this system where he wrote down 13 virtues like temperance, prudence, order, industry. He saved the one he found hardest for last, which was humility. And he made a chart with the virtues on the x-axis and the days of the week on the y-axis. And he'd pick a virtue a week, and every night he would make an X mark next to the virtue if he fell short of it. So he tried this for a while, and he found it was very depressing because there were all these X marks, but he thought that he was a better person for having tried. And I knew about this system because I practiced it at the recommendation of a rabbi in Washington, D.C. It was translated into Hebrew by a Hasidic rabbi in the 18th century, and it's offered to Jewish people today. It's called the Musar system of character improvement. I tried it with a friend for a while. We also found it very depressing because there are all these X marks, but it's worth trying. But it was so striking that Franklin chose as his motto for this project a line from the same Cicero book that inspired Jefferson, and it's from the Tusculan Disputations, and it basically says, without virtue, happiness cannot be. And that, so in other words, the idea of the pursuit of happiness, which Jefferson put in the Declaration, was first printed and discussed by Benjamin Franklin decades before, because Franklin was older. And Franklin is printing in his newspaper all of these sources that contain the phrase the pursuit of happiness by Christian preachers, the most popular preachers of the day, like Wollaston and Tillotson, and also Whig writers who inspired the revolution, like Cato's Letters, and civic Republican writers and liberals like John Locke. In other words, this isn't some secret meaning of the pursuit of happiness that only Jefferson is thinking of. This is everywhere. Using electronic word searches, I just went through the documents, which are all online now, incredibly, and they all contain the phrase the pursuit of happiness, and they all use it in this way.
And it's such a powerful way. I just keep coming back to this whole idea that, you just don't think of virtue, discipline, service as the words we think about when we think pursuit of happiness these days. It's another area where I think we've just missed the mark. Give us one other example of one of these other 6 founders. You have Washington, Adams, of course, Jefferson, Madison, Hamilton. Give us one that maybe surprised you in terms of their approach to these virtues and the pursuit of happiness.
One who was surprising and really inspiring is John Quincy Adams. And, the son of the president. When he's a kid, both his mom and his dad are constantly hitting him over the head saying, you've got to be virtuous, use your powers of reason to master your passions, achieve tranquility of soul. This creates so much pressure on him that when he's in his 20s, he's the minister to Russia. He's just turned down a Supreme Court appointment. And he writes in his diary, I'm 27 years old. I haven't achieved anything. I'm wasting my time. I'm drinking too much and going to the theater. He puts so much pressure on himself because he has this Puritan ethic of perfection. Then he becomes president, and 2 tragedies happen. He loses the re-election to Andrew Jackson, but more significantly, his oldest son commits suicide. His name is George Washington Adams. Huge pressure from his dad. His father's written him letters to live up to biblical perfection, which the pressure is too great, and he becomes an alcoholic and he jumps off a steamship. And Adams is just crushed, and he's trying to find some consolation and meaning. What does he do? He goes back to Cicero. He reads the Tusculan Disputations in the White House and afterward to kind of deal with his grief, because it's a book about grief. And then he emerges from this incredible experience resolved to fight slavery. And then he completely transforms his outlook. He's convinced that slavery violates the Bible as well as natural law, and God will punish America for this terrible sin. And he denounces it. He goes to the House of Representatives. He becomes the leading opponent of the gag rule, which forbids abolitionists' petitions. He introduces a constitutional amendment to end slavery. Then he dies on the floor of the House. He collapses, and his last words are, "I am composed." And he gets that from Cicero, the idea that it's the perfectly composed person who has tranquility of soul, who is the virtuous and happy man. An amazing story. Such an inspiring founder.
I love it. We would keep you here all afternoon. This was one of my favorite gifts in my time serving in the Senate, was the opportunity to actually go to Philadelphia to spend an afternoon with Jeffrey Rosen, President and CEO of the National Constitution Center. And Jeffrey, the book is magical. Everyone should read it. And then all of the other sub-reading that comes from it. That's probably my favorite part, is it leads you into 27 more explorations of the principles, which is what we always try to do on this show, is to get beyond the headlines. Remember, we only talk about politics so we can explore society. We explore society so we can talk about the principles and the people in America who actually live them. Jeffrey, thank you so much for making time. I know it's a very busy day. We look forward to having you back as soon as we can to continue the conversation. Everyone else go pick up the book, The Pursuit of Happiness, from Jeffrey Rosen. Thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Boyd. It was such a pleasure.
Again, that's Jeffrey Rosen, President and CEO of the National Constitution Center. New book out on The Pursuit of Happiness. Now we know what Jeffrey Rosen did during COVID. He dug into some of the classics of the classics and got down to the principles that actually animated this whole idea of what the pursuit of happiness actually is. And it's not a narcissistic pursuit. It's discipline, it's virtue, it's service. That's what founded this nation. That's what drove the founders of this nation. And if we don't get back to those principles, the future doesn't have a lot of promise. If we do get back to those principles, the future holds all the possibilities, and the best is yet to come. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson.
Well, you've heard me talking about it for a couple of weeks now, but I hit my soda weight loss goal, and I actually went a little bit beyond it. I aimed for 65, and I lost almost 70 pounds in 5 months. So soda's done with me, right? Not on your life. This is where soda really starts to add value to their weight loss program. Soda stands for state of the art, and listen to this. They're not letting go of me. In fact, their goal is to help me keep it off now for the rest of my life. So I get to continue to meet with my nutritionist, Kristen, and they're teaching me how to keep going as I re-add the foods that I've been avoiding during the weight loss portion. I mean, there's a reason that Soda is the #1 weight loss company in America for client satisfaction and client results. Check out the proof. You can just look at me, or you can go to sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com, and check out the 8,500 plus 5-star reviews. I look good, I feel good, and that's thanks to Soda Weight Loss. Soda Weight Loss is, say it with me, state of the art.
The Cougars are fighting for their best chance in the Big Dance.
BYU's displayed its resiliency throughout this campaign.
The Big 12 tournament is days away, and then it's the NCAA tournament. Tonight, it's BYU, Iowa State. Pregame is at 6 and tip-off at 7 on Utah's legacy home for the Cougars. KSL News Radio.
Are you looking to get a COVID-19 booster to stay healthy this cold and flu season? If you join the Beehive study, you'll have the chance to receive up to $550 for getting a booster and completing weekly COVID tests and brief surveys about your health. Don't want to get a COVID-19 booster? That's okay too. You can still join the Beehive study and receive up to $550 for completing the weekly COVID tests and surveys. Help advance research at the University of Utah while taking care of yourself this season. Call 801-203-0320 or email beehivestudy@utah.edu to learn more. You can also visit the study website at beehivestudy.com.
Hi, I'm Henry Winkler. My eyes are very important to me. My eyes connect me with everything I love. I loved my late father-in-law dearly. He always lit up a room, but his vision dimmed with age. He had age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. And since partnering with Apellis, I've learned there's an advanced form of dry AMD called geographic atrophy, or GA. His struggle with vision loss made me want to help others know about GA's warning signs. For some, colors appear dull or washed out. For others, hazy or blurred vision make it hard to see details, like fine print on price tags. Many have trouble seeing in the dark, making driving at night difficult. GA gets worse over time and cannot be reversed. If you think you have GA, don't wait. Treatments are available. Ask a retina specialist about FDA-approved treatments for GA and go to GAWon'tWait.com.
The life of a small business owner. Keeping the lights on, calling all the shots. And then there's workplace accidents. 500-degree ovens, rusty nails. Danger lurks around every corner. Workplace accidents can happen, but there is an easy way to keep your employees covered. Talk to your agent about workers' comp coverage from Pi, or go to piinsurance.com and get a quote. Safety first, then Pi Insurance. Individual rates, offerings, and savings may vary, subject to policy terms and conditions. Not available in all states and situations.
Any Hour Services can help unclog any drain in your house, whether you have a backup, a clog, or a slow drain you want fixed. Call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bonas. First, having to vote differently from a regular election is one reason Utah's caucuses ran into trouble yesterday, according to a USU political science professor. Second, California's getting used to vote by mail. Its Super Tuesday primaries went pretty smoothly. And third, the cemetery in Nauvoo, Illinois, where Joseph and Hiram Smith are buried, was not among the historic sites acquired by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Right now, 52 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. Great to be with you today, as always. And lest you forgot, in the midst of all of the Super Tuesday stuff, Congress still has work to do, and they only have 2 days left in which to do it. Remember, they kicked the can, a very short punt, 1 week down the line for Friday of this week to be able to fund the government, do one of the few jobs that's outlined for them in the Constitution. And so now we need to take a look at where are we now. It is late in the day on Wednesday, and where do we go when we get to Friday? Mark Lillis, of course, is from The Hill, senior staff writer, covers Congress for The Hill, thehill.com. And Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, boy, thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
All right, so as we get to one more version of the shutdown showdown, what are the rumblings in the jungle today?
That's right. You mentioned that they kicked it short-term punt, and that was the 4th time. Excuse me. And now it looks like they're ready to kick it a little bit further, meaning through the rest of the fiscal year, which ends on October 1st. And this has been the goal all along. Since September 30th, they've just had to keep going back, and they just couldn't reach a deal. They've gone through a couple speakers now, and now kind of the rubber hits the road. They've got a deal, and now they're both sides. No one thinks this is going to fail at this point. But it wasn't easy, and the House is going to vote. The House will vote it at any minute, in fact, and then send it along to the Senate. We don't know exactly when the Senate's going to pass it, but Charles Schumer was on the floor this morning and said we will easily meet the Friday night deadline. So it looks like again, it wasn't easy, but they've done it. And I don't know that they're going to pat themselves on the back because it is 7 months late or whatever it is, but they have achieved their final objective, and it will be bipartisan. And nobody gets what they want, but both sides have some victories to claim.
Yeah, and let's dig into that just a little bit. So this is not the complete funding of the government. This is six of the appropriations bills kind of lumped into one kind of mini bus, I guess you could call it. That would fund those particular agencies until the end of the fiscal year. As you mentioned, end of September. We always say September 30th always comes, and that's when you have to fund the government. So this is just 6 of those. So they'll still have another deadline looming a couple weeks from now to deal with the rest of the funding.
Right, and that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, because the ones that they've done this time around, for all the difficulty in reaching a deal, that's the low-hanging fruit. Those were supposed to be the easy ones. The next deadline on March 22nd, those are the tougher ones. Those are the Pentagon. Those are the Homeland Security Department, meaning immigration and the border. That's Health and Human Services, meaning abortion. So you can imagine that the next couple of weeks after they do pass this first minibus is the term you use, and that's what we're calling it up here too. So the next couple of weeks after they pass this thing is going to be another grueling fight, and they'll have to see if they have as much success in 2 weeks as they have right now. But again, those are the tougher ones, and that's why they did them. That's why they did them second.
Yeah, and it's been interesting to see this two-tiered system that Speaker of the House Mike Johnson has used. I think in an effort to kind of diffuse a little bit of that, or maybe just prevent the big 3,000-page bill that nobody's read and lots of amendments that nobody knows about, or things that get tucked in there in terms of some of those things. But as you look at that, you mentioned low-hanging fruit. Those ones are done. Now we got the big bite and the long chew when it comes to things like Department of Defense. And then the other component I want you to just dig into quick is, even if everything goes really well and they get this next one done by the 22nd, they're already behind schedule because they really should be doing this for September. They're basically a year behind.
That's right. They should have been working on 2025 fiscal year, which begins on October 1st, since the beginning of this year, and instead they've been working on 2024. So yes, they're behind, and they would be the first to admit it. They know it, and but I will say that in an election year, no one thinks that they would have anything ready by October 1st anyway. It was always the plan, even if they had passed 2024 spending 8 months ago on schedule. There was no scenario where they were going to try to pass to do it again ahead of the election, just because those are just really tough votes for a lot of people in really tough districts, and they wouldn't want to have to do that. So what typically happens in an election year is that they would kick it from October 1st, past the election, past November, and sometime into December, and then they would work on all those details after everybody knows who voted, how everybody voted, and who's coming back and who's not, and then it becomes an easier vote to take. But to your point, yes, they're behind, and actually the House Budget Committee is announced this week that they're aware of it, and they're going to introduce their budget here shortly. So it's not like nobody's working, but all the oxygen has been taken up by the more pressing issue, which is how to prevent a shutdown this week.
Yeah, no question about that. And I want you all to note, we're going to note this for the file, you heard Mike call the shot. It's going to happen as we get to September, as we march towards September 30th, and everything's winding down. The punt will be past Election Day. And maybe we'll get one more little mini version right before the holidays, if not maybe even into that new Congress in January of 2025. But you heard it here first. Mike Lillis has called the shot, and I'm betting the ranch that Mike is 1,000% right on this one in terms of the kick. Mike, thanks for joining us. As always, great writing, great perspective at The Hill. Mike's senior staff writer, covers Congress for The Hill. Mike, thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you, Boyd. Appreciate it. Anytime.
All right, again, that's Mike Lillis, senior staff writer from The Hill. You can check out his piece at thehill.com. And yes, you can put the panic button away. We don't have to have a showdown this week unless something crazy happens in the Senate. Entirely possible. Don't underestimate their ability to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. The House has passed things over to them, which will fund a portion of the government until the end of the fiscal year, end of September. But remember, they've still got the tough stuff. Department of Defense, big decisions, big battles, and they only have 2 weeks to get that done. So that will be the next thing on the showdown list. All right, we'll step aside for some bottom-of-the-hour news, but don't go anywhere. Yesterday, a historic announcement from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints about the stewardship and acquisition of some sacred properties to the church and to church members around the world. We'll have a sit-down conversation with Elder Kyle McKay, church historian, and Matt Groh from the Church History Department coming up next on Inside Sources.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top story this hour: the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints answered questions today about the acquisition of the Kirtland Temple and other historic sites from the Community of Christ. Matt Groh with the church's history department was asked about the cemetery in Nauvoo, Illinois, where Joseph Smith, his brother Hiram, and other members of the Smith family are buried.
Community of Christ still owns that parcel with the cemetery. And so I think questions about that and its future use would be best posed to Community of Christ.
Groh says future tours and scholarship about the historic sites will acknowledge the contribution of the Community of Christ in preserving the buildings, but they'll also focus on the religious significance to Latter-day Saints. Our top national story this hour from ABC News: a worker from China has been accused of stealing confidential trade secrets from Google's artificial intelligence program. ABC's Alex Stone has details.
38-year-old Lin Wei Ding is accused of stealing secrets from Google's AI program while working undercover for two AI startup companies based in China, giving them Google's secrets. Prosecutors say 3 years into the job, he started stealing confidential trade secrets, including the building blocks of Google's data centers used for training AI computers. Alex Stone, ABC News.
Your money at this moment: the Dow Jones average closing trading today up 75 points, the NASDAQ up 91, and the S&P 500 up 26 today. And our KSL weather will be drying out and warming up toward the end of the week. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:31.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio. I just elevated my checking account with Utah Community Credit Union. Tim, I am so blown away at what I get with my elevated checking account at UCCU. I get so many benefits. I get cell phone protection and roadside assistance. The one that blows me away the most is telehealth. I actually get zero copay telehealth with my checking account from UCCU.
Did you know you also get a 0.25% loan discount? It's one of the many things. And if you like to travel or you're on the road quite a bit, a free ATM nationwide, 30,000 ATM locations that you can use while you're out.
Utah basketball star Walker Kessler and Utah Community Credit Union have come together to announce this brand new elevated checking account with more benefits, more savings, more online protections than ever before.
Yeah, there's even something for dark web monitoring, which I have never heard of before, but you can find out more by just going to uccu.com.
And open an elevated checking account online or stop by any branch.
UCCU, you're going to love where you bank.
This song doesn't have a name, but if it did, it'd probably be something about togetherness, because it's a collaboration, not between pop stars and producers, but between music therapists and kids. Music therapy is a treatment that doesn't involve medication or needles, and it's been proven to help children manage pain and contribute to faster healing. So it shouldn't surprise you, it's our favorite song. And just one way we partner with you for a life well lived. Intermountain Health. The power of we.
Looking for a secure retirement plan without market risk? Look no further. Lyle Boss, president of Boss Financial, specializes in no market risk retirement strategies with guarantees of principal, guaranteed growth, and lifelong income. Join Lyle right here each Saturday and Sunday for his Safe Money radio show and call him now at 855-355-SAFE for your complimentary customized Safe Money information kit and Safe Money book. Nothing but upside here at 855-355-SAFE.
This Monday Tax Tip is brought to you by Susan Spears, CEO of the Utah Association of CPAs.
Did you know that you may be missing out on important deductions and credits if you don't correctly claim your dependents on your income taxes? Remember to provide Social Security numbers for your children or other dependents. If you are divorced, only one parent may claim the child as a dependent. If you both claim the same child as a dependent, the processing of your return will come to a screeching halt while the IRS works with the parties to straighten things out. Work with your CPA to streamline the process.
Get the most out of your income tax preparation when you hire a CPA. Go to uacpa.org to find a CPA that's right for you. That's uacpa.org. uacpa.org. Listen to KSL on Monday for more tax tips from the Utah Association of CPAs.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
Rain slowing speeds on I-15 between the South Interchange and Sandy, and a crash northbound I-215's West Belt at California Avenue on the right. UDOT construction alert. Plan for delays on eastbound I-215 this weekend as the road between I-15 and State Street at that exit will be closed for bridge maintenance. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
And our KSL weather, a high in the 50s today, but drops back into the 40s tomorrow and Friday. And there's a chance of rain tomorrow. Then it dries out for the weekend. And right now we're at 52 degrees with cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Yesterday, of course, there was a major announcement from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in conjunction with the Community of Christ, in that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints had acquired historic documents that were transferred, and also historic sites in Kirtland and in Nauvoo as well. And as I watched that and listened to that play out yesterday, the thing that kept coming back to me was that the announcement was not any about any kind of monetary thing. It was about meaning. It was about sacred places and spaces, and how that really shapes culture, how that shapes individual, community, and how it ultimately impacts the world. And we're really thrilled today to have joining us on the program two people who've been in the middle of a lot of the conversations around these historic sites and historic artifacts. Elder Kyle S. McKay is the church historian for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and Matt Groh is the managing director of the Church History Department. And we're pleased to have both of you on the show. And Elder McKay, let me start with you in terms of these sacred places and spaces. Why were these in particular so important for the church to acquire?
A couple of reasons. Number one, and perhaps most obvious, is that they help create a connection to our past and the events of the past. All of the historic sites and historic documents and artifacts that we own have one overarching purpose, and that is to help us come unto Jesus Christ. And so when you think of what happened in the Kirtland Temple, and when you think of what happened in the Red Brick Store and other places, and the significance of some of the documents that we're getting, all of those are ultimately valuable to us because of their effect on our hearts and their ability to turn us to Christ. If I could borrow from some of the things that happened anciently, this idea is not new or unique to us. Ancient Israel carried Aaron's rod and the tablets and some manna to help remind them and to keep them in remembrance of the God of Israel who guided them. And later, as Joshua was helping them cross over into the promised land, the Lord rolled back the River Jordan, and they were commanded to make a monument out of 12 different stones. And the purpose of that monument was to commemorate the event. But ultimately, the memorial and its purpose was told by the Lord in the last verse of Joshua chapter 4. And its purpose was that all the people of the earth might know the hand of the Lord, that it is mighty. And that is why we have a church history program. That is why we have church history sites. That is why we preserve artifacts and documents and these marvelous properties that have now come into our possession and ownership.
I think that's so important. I think one of the things that we're losing in society as a whole is this ability to remember and how important that is. We often say that the things that we choose to ignore or forget, our children may never know, and what our children don't know, our grandchildren are not likely to possess. And Matt, I want to shift over to you from a historic standpoint there. You have said on occasion that traveling to back in history is like going to a foreign country, and that they do things different there. And it's important for us as we sit here in 2024 and look back to recognize they did do things different there, and there are some priceless lessons in that for us today. Give us some perspective on that as it relates to these sites, again, in Kirtland and in Nauvoo.
Well, that is, I think, a really core concept in understanding history. It's a concept I borrowed from a British novelist. And to understand the past, we have to take seriously the people that lived there and the culture and the context that they lived in. And I think for understanding these sites, fundamentally, is to understand that the people who were building the Kirtland Temple and who were worshiping in the Kirtland Temple were fundamentally motivated by their witness of the gospel of Jesus Christ. That this is fundamentally a religiously motivated people. And if we understand their beliefs, if we take their beliefs seriously, if we listen to what they said, the experiences they had, I think that we can feel of their power and of their witness. And then, like Elder McKay was saying, that's why we have these sites, so we can understand the people that lived there at the time and to hear their witness, and so that we can gain our own witness of the core events of the restoration of the gospel.
I think that's so important, and so important in terms of that context of the kind of the conditions that those people were living in as they were building these extraordinary places that then became sacred space by what happened in them. It wasn't just that they constructed these buildings or these monuments. It was what happened there that really matters. I think it's very interesting, Elder McKay. I thought this was very important in the framing of the announcements that were made yesterday, that the word that I kept seeing was stewardship, that the community of Christ had been careful stewards of many of these places for many years and had worked in conjunction with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in preserving them. Give us your sense now as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints takes that stewardship lead in those particular properties. What does that mean, and why is that important?
Well, you ask a great question, because stewardship and steward are scriptural words for us. They come out as mandates in our scripture, and it's an important responsibility. And so now we do view this as a stewardship, which for us is an elevated level of care. And we hope to be the kind of generous and wise stewards that Community of Christ has been over the years. And we view this, because they are sacred sites, we view this as a sacred stewardship, and not just the sites, but also the documents and the artifacts. And so in a very real and scriptural sense, we feel that this is a stewardship that's being transferred from them, but also there's an implied expectation from the Lord, because at the end of the day, if something is sacred, it's because he made it sacred.
So important. I thought it was significant yesterday that the president of the Church of Jesus Christ, Russell M. Nelson, said, "We are deeply honored to assume stewardship of these sacred places, documents, and artifacts. We thank our friends at Community of Christ for their great care and cooperation in preserving these historical treasures. we are committed to doing the same. I think that's so important. Matt Groh, I want to go back to you in terms of some of the sites in and around Nauvoo, particularly the Red Brick Store. We have been talking a lot of late around the Relief Society of the Church of Jesus Christ, which has to be one of the largest and oldest women's organizations in the world. Now you have possession stewardship of the site where that was organized. Give us a sense of why that moment mattered so much.
Yeah, the Red Brick Store is a really interesting piece of this transfer. In a lot of ways, it's the least historically important in the sense that the building itself is a reconstruction in 1980. The store hasn't survived past the 1890s. But in terms of spiritual significance, it's at the very top of after the Kirtland Temple as to the events that happened there. And core to that is the Relief Society. It was on March 17th. 1842, that the women of Nauvoo gathered in an upper room in the Red Brick Store, and along with Joseph Smith and two apostles of the church, organized the Relief Society. And Joseph Smith was clear that the church couldn't be perfectly organized until the women were organized, until the Relief Society had been founded. So it's really important to us that we'll be able to tell that story. Of course, that's become a worldwide organization. The other story that we'll tell in the Red Brick Store that's connected to the Relief Society story is that 6 weeks after the organization of the Relief Society, Joseph Smith gathered a small number of believers and introduced a new religious ceremony that we've come to know as the Temple Endowment. Joseph really saw the Relief Society as a place to prepare women to participate in temple ordinances, and he saw priesthood quorums as a place to prepare men for those same temple ordinances. And of course, that temple endowment that was begun in that upper room in the Red Brick Store is now practiced in temples all across the globe. And so to be able to share those stories in the space that they happened is going to be really, really significant for us.
We're going to continue the conversation as we explore this with Elder Kyle McKay from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and Matt Groh. Much more to come on Inside Sources. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Your tax refund belongs to you, not an identity thief. Over $6 billion in tax refunds were flagged by the IRS for possible identity theft in 2023. If you're in a bind this tax season, LifeLock can help. Our U.S.-based restoration specialists are experts dedicated to helping solve your identity theft issues, and all LifeLock plans are backed by the $1 Million Protection Package. So we'll reimburse you up to the limits of your plan if you lose money due to identity theft. Don't let someone else enjoy your refund. Save up to 25% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com.
To thank you for 40 unforgettable years, Dell Technologies is celebrating with anniversary savings on their most popular tech. For a limited time only, save on select next-gen PCs, like the XPS 13 Plus, powered by Intel Core processors, and more. Plus, curate your dream setup with great deals on select monitors, mice, and more must-have electronics and accessories. When you shop online at Dell.com/deals, you'll have access to leading-edge technology and free shipping on everything. Again, that's Dell.com/deals.
Join Andy and the KSL Movie Show crew broadcasting at the Mountain America Expo Center this Friday with advanced window products, affordable, high-quality windows.
This year, wouldn't you like to stop feeling self-conscious about your receding hairline or thinning hair? Millions of men and women around the world trust Hair Grow from New Nordic as an effective way to get thicker-looking hair. Hair Grow is backed by an exclusive U.S. patent and is clinically proven to promote more hair growth. Ask for Hair Grow at your local Walgreens or shop online at Amazon.com or NewNordicUSA.com. That's new, N-O-R-D-I-C, USA.com. Amazon, or ask for Hair Grow at your local Walgreens.
Every day, Cintas service reps help businesses get ready for the workday. They provide freshly laundered workwear delivered every week. Mats, mops, restroom and cleaning supplies, first aid and safety products to help your employees stay safe. They even test and inspect fire extinguishers and emergency lights. Cintas helps keep your business running smoothly. See what Cintas can do for you. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
The life of a small business owner. Keeping the lights on, calling all the shots. And then there's workplace accidents. 500-degree ovens, rusty nails. Danger lurks around every corner. Workplace accidents can happen, but there is an easy way to keep your employees covered. Talk to your agent about workers' comp coverage from Pi, or go to piinsurance.com and get a quote. Safety first, then Pi Insurance. Individual rates, offerings, and savings may vary, subject to policy terms and conditions. Not available in all states and situations.
Held over due to popular demand. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Utah State Fair Park. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Utah State Fair Park. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Utah State Fair Park. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Utah State Fair Park. Friday, noon to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Utah State Fair Park. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
If you're just joining us, we have Elder Kyle S. McKay, a church historian for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and Matt Groh, managing director of the Church History Department, talking about the historic announcement yesterday that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints would take stewardship and ownership of the Kirtland Temple in Ohio, the Smith family homestead, the Mansion House, Nauvoo House, and the Red Brick Store in Nauvoo, Illinois, along with numerous manuscripts, correspondence, portraits, cornerstone, and the original door to the Liberty Jail. Elder McKay, I wanted to ask you, I think this is an interesting component to all of this. Winston Churchill said that we shape our buildings and then our buildings shape us. And I think that is clear not only in terms of these historic buildings for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but as Matt Groh just pointed out, they really became the starting point for many other sacred spaces all around the world.
Yes, they did. And even as you said that, quoting Winston Churchill, I had come to my mind a beautiful statement, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but I've heard it quoted several times because of its profoundness. But it's what President Holland said at his wife's funeral, that she made our home feel like heaven, and one day she will make heaven feel like home. And that's what happens when we do it right in our homes and in our sacred spaces, including the temple and other places. And remember, 1, 2, 3 of the places we're getting, at least the major properties, were homes there in Nauvoo. And not just those 3, but there are other homes that aren't quite as significant, but the Rigdon home and the Marks home and Wright home and several other homes where the gospel was taught and learned and lived, and they became sacred spaces. You think back to your own childhood and what home means. You juxtapose that with the house of the Lord, and you have some pretty special places.
Yeah, no question about that. And Matt Groh, as we turn back to you for a moment, we talk about these moments where heaven and earth come together, that is where that sacred space really begins. And just describe for us kind of the essence of this in terms of how these artifacts, these sacred spaces, really aren't just a piece of the past. They are a piece of the past, but more importantly, they're a priceless part of the future. Make that connection for us.
Yeah, I mean, for us as Latter-day Saints, those places where heaven and earth came together in really powerful ways are our most sacred sites. So a place like the Sacred Grove in New York. The Kirtland Temple is in that same genre. It was in the Kirtland Temple that we believe the Lord Jesus Christ appeared to Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery. It was in that Kirtland Temple that we believe that ancient prophets again appeared to Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery and gave to them authority to do things that are foundational to us as Latter-day Saints, to do missionary work, to do family history work, to do temple ordinances that seal generations together. History isn't just an academic subject for Latter-day Saints. Our history and our doctrine are so intertwined. And it's in those historical moments and those historical events that the doctrine was restored and unfolded to us, continuing to shape the practices that we do today.
So vitally important. And Elder McKay, as we come down the home stretch here, we often reference this idea that in our society and the world today that people are losing their capacity to feel awe and wonder and that sense of the sacred. And I've always said that those who lose that sense of the sacred are in danger of losing a great deal more. And when it comes to sacred spaces and sacred things, that remembering is such an important word, because it not only gives us a sense of peace or a space, but it's that sense of place, I think, in terms of our relationship to each other. And as you said at the outset, our relationship to God and that connection. As we close it out, what's the one thing that you wish that people inside the church and outside the church would think a little differently about or talk a little differently about when it comes to these kinds of sacred places and spaces?
Maybe I could borrow words from the Scriptures and then from a British essayist. From the Scriptures, the Lord made clear, and this is in the Old Testament, teach my people the difference between the holy and profane. Now, as used in that verse, the word profane means simply common or ordinary. God wants us to recognize and remember that there's a difference between those things that may not be evil but are nevertheless ordinary, and those things that he has made and designated holy, and that we should not treat them the same. Sometimes holy things can become common to us through neglect or simple repetition, overexposure, if you will. Thomas Carlyle observed, quote, creatures of the human kind shut their eyes to plainest fact and live at ease in the midst of wonders. Man is and was always a blockhead and dullard. Thus let but a rising of the sun, let but a creation of the world happen twice, and it ceases to be marvelous, to be noteworthy or noticeable, close quote. I hope that our ability now to have greater access to and exposure to these historic and sacred sites will never lead to a complacency or to a position where, because of repetition, it has somehow become less wondrous and less sacred and even common to us. When I think of the Kirtland Temple, for example, I can't help but draw a comparison between the magnificent Solomon Temple that was overlaid with gold in its entire interior, and then the Nephi Temple that you can read about in the Book of Mormon, 2 Nephi chapter 5, where Nephi said, look, this is not as good as Solomon's Temple, but it was exceedingly fine. And then this humble Kirtland Temple that the saints constructed in their poverty, and they even used their broken stuff to include in the making of the external shell, and they weren't going to go so far as to make it a log structure, but they didn't have the money to make it a frame structure, so they built it of stone and then put a stucco covering on it. And those three places, different in appearance, and the humble Kirtland Temple might be embarrassed to stand next to the other two, and yet it was accepted of the Lord. And maybe there's a lesson in there, not just about places, but about people who've given their all and have been accepted by God.
Fantastic. It is very true that the world will never want for lack of wonders, but it may perish for lack of wonder, as you just described that so powerfully. Elder Kyle S. McKay, church historian for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Matt Groh, managing director of Church History Department, on historic announcements in the acquisition and stewardship of important Kirtland Temple and many properties in the Nauvoo area, along with documents and artifacts that all create that sacred place and space. And as you said, Elder McKay, it is about all of us as people questioning some of those things as well. Thanks to both of you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Boyd.
Thank you.
Again, that was my conversation with Elder Kyle McKay, church historian for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And as I've continued to reflect on that, it's really interesting. All sacred space tends to push us out of the chaos of our daily life, the daily drill of things. Sacred space pushes us deeper into connection with God and I think with each other. I think there